The sky so far, but I can't lose it.
weeks are left before we'll know the fastest 33 to fight in the iRacing INDYCAR Buttkicker Pro Series. But here from America's National Park of Speed, one penultimate chance to really prove your worth at one of the finest tracks across of global motorsports. Hi folks, welcome along to RaceSpotTV and to round 6 of 7 in the INDYCAR Buttkicker iRacing qualifying series. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. Josh Lee's behind the buttons controlling all of the action, and we're very excited about what lies ahead of us. 26 laps at this high-speed thriller where setup matters a lot and strategy will come to the forefront as well. If you're joining us for the very first time, it's been an interesting schedule to say the very least. INDYCAR racing is all about diversity, street circuits, purpose-built road courses, and of course throw in some ovals as well. Not just the speedways, the auto clubs, the Indianapolises, but of course last week we went racing at the Worldwide Technology Raceway in the shadow of the Gateway Arch. It was fascinating to see the way that things ended up playing out. Private label Team Hype and Powerslide Motorsports running quite strong, along with plenty of the iRacing INDYCAR regulars. Expecting to see a couple more of the familiar faces from past World Championships returning to the forefront here today. And of course, next week we head to Mid-Ohio with these drivers knowing they've all just got to keep on the straight and narrow. Michele Costantini and Jordan Caruso, the Coanda Esports teammates, are split by going on 21 points heading into today's afternoon and evening of activities. Diogo Pinto, the Porsche Esports Super Cup champion a couple of years ago, sits then in third for Team Redline, with Brandon Treno, the king of the bricks, representing the Apex Racing team, up there in fourth position. Jose Soria, Luke McEwen, and then Sota Muto, rest of the top 7. But you just look at how close it is, from going on 6th all the way down to the likes of Gustavo Ariel and Adam Crane on the edge of the top 12. Remember, the fastest 33 will make their way to the Pro Series, and this is the challenge that they're all being focused on here today. You don't get that sense of elevation. You see the corners represented as mere 90-degree kinks left and right, but this track is anything but simple, deceptive in its nature, high speed and flowing, and over on the left side of that track map, the kink. Oh, just ask Catherine Legg just how scary and treacherous that can be, and think back to the VCO INDYCAR Challenge quite recently. Had a big wreck there as well. It's a long track, it's a fun track, and they've been racing here for going on 70 years. And it's always exciting to see the drivers out on track for the very first time. There's a look at one of the Coanda Esports drivers. I'm guessing by the livery, might be Bobby Zelensky. Not entirely sure just yet, though, as they rumble down to turn 5. And how did I know that? Bobby Zelensky, the only one of the Coanda drivers, by the way, not with the actual Coanda livery. Until today, it would seem. There's some new logos across the side of the car. Bobby has got the memo. Qualifying order shapes up on the left-hand side of your screen, with Drago Racing's Ricardo Rico setting the benchmark with a 1:42.57. Pinto, we know he's quick. Of course, winner at Barber a couple of weeks ago. He's got Jose Soria, the second of the Drago cars, behind him. And then another Drago entry, David Topp, the Hungarian, sits up in fourth. But here comes Caruso, breaks the timing line, and it's his first and only lap in the session. Jumps into the top 10, not necessarily thinking that's what they would want, though. Ooh, out wide for Manuel Scoli in the 31, the Raw Esports entry that rises up through Bill Mitchell Bend. Very much tentative onto the brakes there as he tries to roll the speed through the corner and practicing what is not to be trifled with, a very, very aggressive pit entry. The pit limiter quite late and hidden by the incline of the hill. Now, one more Coanda driver, and is this one that's really got to perform? Bobby Zelensky's a driver that's racing his fair share of iRacing World Championships, and 13th onto the board today. That's one of the better efforts we've seen from him in the road courses. Maybe Coanda feeling a little bit stronger. Well, one of the talking points over the course of this season, of course, has been races start around 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, which sounds great if you're in the US, not so great if you're in Europe. There are plenty of our drivers up at 2 a.m. in the morning. It's going on about 3 a.m. right now where I am in Saudi Arabia, but I'm very excited about what lies ahead. 26 laps, Road America, and it's Ricardo Rico for Drago Racing up front with Diogo Pinto alongside. 77,000 split the two of them, with Jose Soria and David Toff. Drago Racing showing up strong. Tamas Shimon lines up inside of Elliot Vera on less than a quarter of a second or so off of your pole inside of that third row. and then you scroll back down to the 7th spot in the starting formation to continue just working to the second of the red line cars. Gustavo Ariel sees Michele Costantini, the points leader for company, and then Jordan Caruso, still rocking the purple and black, has Florian Labigra on the outside of row number 5. Pablo Espez, Luke McEwen, 11th and 12th positions respectively. And then hopefully not unlucky 13th for Bobby Zelensky. Cooper Webster in the Oracle Red Bull Sim Racing and Team Redline car is alongside. Michael Romanidis, the Greek driver, is alongside Sota Muto, of course, running from Japan. So another one with some slightly awkward hours to deal with. And then Eduardo Leo, Moreno Sarica, just outside of the front 15 and just within half a second of the pole alongside Sam Coitert and Peter Berryman, who's got some work to do from 20th position. Phil Kraus, Michael Johnny, 21st and 22nd, with Nico Rosbicki and then Luis Nunez rolling from just behind them, and a bit more of a gap starting to build through the field as he rolled to 25th and Xavi Ross. He's got Nathan Moore alongside. The handlebar mustache of Kevin Burrell makes a return with Dan Amor in the Apex Racing Academy. First time we've seen him in the top split, and he's just made it in as the 33rd and final car. Lucas Prada, Brandon Roseborough, 29th and 30th, and about 1 second off of your pole time. And then you find Manuel Cubo Torres with the final time on the board. And Jaden Munoz has got it all to do in that Williams Esports number 11 to try and fight his way on forward. Manuel Scoli will also be at the very back of the field as well, after not punching in a qualifying time. And as our pace car driver rolls off and away here at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, we welcome the IndyCars to the track. Look at the wind. 29 kilometers an hour. Now, I'm not entirely sure what direction that's blowing into, but I can tell you that VCO IndyCar Challenge a couple of weeks ago, we had a tailwind into turn 1, and that did cause on occasion a couple of issues here and there. That's also, for the astute-minded amongst you, a tailwind out of the final corner, and a high commitment final corner at that as well. Track temperatures are relatively low, 34 degrees Celsius, but this is one of the few tracks on the iRacing calendar where the primary compound tire, harder in its nature, less grippy, but more durable, actually is your preferred choice, while the alternates, try and run them as little as you can. And so with a 26-lap race, fuel that can go as far as maybe 14 laps without too much saving, expect drivers to maybe try and go onto the alternates at the end and push as hard as they can, maybe save some of their push to passes as well. The look from up above does also show, right, the teammate coordination that I think we're going to see here. Rico, what's he going to do with Soria and Toth in close vicinity as well? And for Diogo Pinto, his nearest teammate is Gustavo Ariel, a little bit further back. And a pair of drivers, let's not forget, that are trying to live up to the lofty expectations of Team Redline. Of course, today, Kevin Siggy used his head to come out on top in the Esports World Cup Drivers' Championship. Literally used his head, by the way. Go and check out social media. It turns out ramming a steering wheel with your head is a good way to get some cuts. It's also a good way to get your mind in the rhythm to go even faster and to win a championship. Oh, what a dramatic way that was. And you know, this is a physical car as well, so just be careful if you're going to bang your head against these Cosworth wheels that they all share in these Dallara IR18s. As Brett Alt says, by the way, this is one of those tracks where that fuel mileage does come really in handy, because if you miscalculate trying to go a lap longer and you run out of fuel, well, it's a long lap. You're going to lose a lot of time trying to run your way back around. And so that fuel window, 13, 14, 15 laps, knowing how light you are or heavy you are on that right foot, understanding how to save some fuel, these are all things to very much keep in mind. And with 33 cars in the field, of course, let's not forget that opening lap of action, probably going to be pretty helter-skelter. That run through the kink could see some drama there. We saw Danny Lorenzo and Alexander Van der Sant getting tangled up in that VCO IndyCar Challenge race that I mentioned. We saw some action down into Canada corner as well. And we also did see some cars that maybe had a bit too much downforce. So something I'm really looking forward to keeping my eye on. Where have these teams all settled in terms of the balance of their car? Are you trimmed out? Are you fast in a straight line? Or have you given yourself a bit more mechanical grip to work out of some of these slower 90-degree corners? Remember, after this, we're making our way over for one final blast at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Truly epitomizing, capturing the diverse nature of challenges that IndyCar drivers, both in real and virtual worlds, must endure. Let's not forget, the 10-round INDYCAR Buttkicker Pro Series kicks off on September the 19th. 6 road course races and 4 ovals. It will truly crown the most diverse champion on the iRacing service, and let's punch it. Here at Road America, almost 3 wide instantly behind as the Commander Esports drivers try and leapfrog Gustavo Ariel and Diogo Pinto. Drago Racing trying to work together, running down to turn number 1. Single file inside of the top 4 as they stamp onto the anchors. A couple of cars run out wide, no one kicking up some gravel though, crucially. Down the hill, this is a crucial braking zone. Turn 3 builds that momentum to the next passing spot at turn 5, and while there is a couple of cars running by out onto the grass, it's not inside of the top 10 where all drivers have decided, let's get through the start safely. Phil Krause is having to defend, so maybe Gustavo Ariel and Diogo Pinto trying to work as well. Turn 5, pinch point on occasion, but as we rise under the Corvette bridge for the first time of asking, can't quite believe I'm saying this, I think 33 Indy cars have gotten through the opening couple of corners here without any issues, through the hurry downs. Big wiggle there for the Commander Esports driver behind, and Diogo Pinto has gone from the front row to 6th in the space of the opening couple of corners. That is the importance, the ability to coordinate on the start. And so now, off the corner, out of that long sweeping right-hander, towards the kink they fly, and already it's Rico Soria, but Tamas Jumon has stopped it from being a Drago 1, 2, and 3. That could very well influence the next stage of this race. Seems as though alternate compound tire is the choice for the Drago Racing teammates. Diogo Pinto on the primary compounded tire. A strategy to cycle back around in the closing stages of this race. So under the NTT IndyCar bridge they will climb. It's Rico, Soria, Simon, and then top. First driver back onto the button is Elliot Veyron. His teammate Michael Romanidis in 17th is trying to make a move on Sam Coitet as well, potentially. But up front, it's all about the gaps that have been building. Ariel drops another spot behind Pablo Espez. Costantini and Caruso just inside of the top 10 right now. I've always wondered, by the way, what does real cheese people mean? What's a fake cheese person? Some very interesting signage around Road America, if we're being honest. Your leaders, though, already, Veyron 2 odd seconds behind the 4th car in this leading queue, so David Toth probably not going to force the issue on Tamas Shimon, does not need to make the move just yet. I get the sense it's probably all of those drivers behind that are on the primaries. Eduardo Leo, Phil Krause. That's not a place to try and make a move. Ooh, and the only repeat winner in the VCO IndyCar Challenge out into the gravel, and that might be his day done and dusted. He's back in pit lane, so is Moreno Surica. And right after I had said all 33 IndyCars had gotten through the opening couple of corners safely, well, guess what? I get proven wrong. Now, Lewis McClade does not believe in a commentator's curse. Was that a commentator's curse? You tell me. So as we work our way to the end of the second lap here, here's what happened to the Williams Esports machine, slightly further behind in the queue. It's through this long right-hander. Maybe slightly self-inflicted there from Moreno Surica, trying to go the long way around, carry a bit more speed. I don't necessarily think that was on. Plenty more drivers, though, on the push to pass, including the flying Cooper Webster back in 13th position. Already made the move on Bobby Zelensky. And yeah, the onboard from Surica, I think that tells its own stories. Self-inflicted mistake, unfortunately, so easy to misjudge. You saw the left rear tires dangle onto the grass and gravel there for a moment out of turn 3. Tamas Shimon's on the button trying to close up to Jose Soria. But as he sits in behind right now, it's a tricky situation to manage, you would have to assume, if you are Shimon. A driver that, as far as we are aware, running by himself, no team affiliation here in 2024. but has had a pretty consistent season, all things considered, in these top split races, and definitely one to keep an eye on. So it's Pablo Espes sandwiched by two red line cars, Pinto in front, Ariel behind. Costantini and Caruso, then INDYCAR sit behind the trio as they run right now. With McEwen, Labigra, Webster, Zelensky, Koiter, and Sotomuto still within a good 10-second gap of your leader. And remember, all just waiting now to see the tire compounds. Espes does appear to also be on the alternate compound tire. And so that's going to be something where you expect him to try and make these moves with a little bit more haste. See that on the left side of the screen, Kevin Burrell in 30th, he's on the alternates. But outside of that, there's not many takers in these early stages. And one thing you have to remember as well is you do tend to see the temperatures cool off in iRacing as we go through the course of the race. And so maybe you would prefer to use the grippier tire that wears off faster when the conditions suit it maybe just a little bit more. Although having said that, there is no holding back up front here. They are pushing 10 tenths, maybe a little bit more as well. A couple of four-wheel drifts coming off the corner that last time by. And even here, down through turn 5, look how Soria tried to open up the corner, ran wide off the curb, that missed the apex, yes, maybe gloss over that one, but you know, this is a track where track limits are ruled by the grass and the walls as well. You don't have the luxury of some of the parking lot tracks that now exist in modern Formula racing. Look at Paul Ricard as an example, across the pond, yes, but Circuit of the Americas as well. No, this is old school in its nature, unforgiving with every single corner. So can Pablo Espes try and launch his way on forward, or has he already burnt 3 laps on his tires, about to be 4? There's a wiser thing to do, just to sit where he is. Tell you what, if you see a car in front of you go wide like that and wibble wobble off the exit, always gives you a little bit more confidence. And so watch here. Setting up the exit. Tell you what, that was a great run from Diogo Pinto, unsettled, yes, out of Canada corner through Bill Mitchell Bend. Got it all sorted just in time. Look off the back of the former Porsche Esports champion. And look at the suspension working as well. It's a bumpy track, is this one. Yes, it's been repaved in the real world recently. Not here on iRacing. And not on the push to pass once again for Pablo Espes. Does indicate he's going to sit there and wait, at least for the time being. Also seemingly running out of gear. You can see the blue LEDs indicating he's getting up towards the 12,000 RPM hard limited that these Dallara IR18s have. He's burned 2 of the 10 push to passes that he has to use over the course of the race. As he has to use, can use, if he so chooses. That was Elliot Veyron losing a little bit more time than I think anyone would have anticipated, given that at one point he was a little bit further clear of Diogo Pinto. And for Elliot in particular, I was talking about this a little bit in a couple of weeks ago, actually, but brings that experience of, some of those real cars. Always interesting to talk about the backgrounds of these drivers. Veyron with plenty of karting and even some Formula experience as well along the way, getting some drives. He used to be a member of the Romain Grosjean esports team, but now representing the purple and orange. A purple and orange crew, the Commander esports team, of course, not led by someone unfamiliar in the world of INDYCAR. One of their newest recruits, I should say, Michele Costantini, leaving the Apex Racing team just before the summer of INDYCAR really kicked off in earnest. And yeah, points leader, racing at 2 o'clock in the morning. He's ruining his sleep schedule for the rest of the year, but he's hoping it will be worth it. A World Championship maybe on the cards for the feisty Italian. You can see as well right now, knowing he leads the championship, there's no haste here. All he needs to do is stay out of trouble. And it's a situation that many of these drivers now find themselves in. I did mention, though, there are some drivers that have some work to do. The like maybe of Peter Berryman, still a little bit further back in the pack. But look here, David Toth on the back of Thomas Shimon, and Shimon's losing a little bit of ground to Jose Soria. Soria also losing a bit of the foot tracks of Ricardo Rico. David Toth doing a great job to hold within half a second of the dirty air of two different cars in front of him. And through this kink, yeah, he's not even running out that wide, looking very calm and composed. And still trying to hold that buffer, 3 seconds between 4th and 5th position right now. And again, remember, top 4 started on the alternates. Pablo Espez did as well. The vast majority of the field electing to start on the primary, move to the alternate at the end of the race. You must do one racing lap on each compound of tire. Here's one of our Apex Racing Team competitors, Luke McEwen, who led the championship in the early stages. Remember, Apex went back-to-back. McEwen won at Long Beach, Trano won at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Things have, I don't want to say unraveled since then, but while we've maybe seen speed and pace from Trano, McEwen, and even, of course, Peter Berryman, not always luck has been on their side. And you know, there are many a famous quote about how the more practice you get, the luckier you seem to get as well. But yeah, Peter Berryman, this has definitely not been one of those summers where he's going to look back on it and think, you know what, I was a lucky driver this summer. Caught out by safety cars on a couple of occasions in the VCO INDYCAR Challenge. Been involved in some incidents, often no fault of his own as well. Such is the way, though, of motorsports, that there's only so much that you can do about it. Oh, no. So, Lucas Prada, Xavi Ross, and who else maybe got tangled up? Bobby Zelensky's in pit lane, and that is a broken car for Nico Rosbicki, broken car for Xavi Ross as well, as he does a pirouette through the hurry downs, and he'll be on the flatbed back to pit lane. Ooh, McEwen's having to defend. The Frenchman Florian Lebigre's hungry. Now, which way does he go, inside or outside? Not on the button either, though, to be fair, so Lebigre not going to have a last minute send to the inside down to that crucial corner. But now, with your leader continuing to break away, by the way, Ricardo Rico's 1.3 seconds clear of his teammate. You can see this mid-pack just extends all the way up. Lebigre's in 12th, front of the train, Elliot Veyron in 5th position. And Elliot Veyron, who's now only, 2.5 away from David Toth. So, well, they've closed half a second there already. And maybe 4 laps away from seeing pit stops underway. Let's not forget the alternate runners. So, Zelensky. Ooh, Rosbicki, I think, lost it already. And that's not how you expect to see an IndyCar on its lid. Jaden Munoz somehow gets through that. Nathan Moore or Lucas Prado, one of the WSI esports machines, not so lucky. And there goes the rear wing for Xavi Ross as well. You can see the left rear on Rosbicki's car is definitely not working well. And the rear wing for Xavi Ross doing absolutely nothing. But 10 out of 10 for the perfect 360 no-scope pirouette. And then onto the flatbed, back to pit lane. And that adds to the casualty list that we have had so far today. Phil Krause is 1 lap down, winner, champion in the VCO IndyCar Challenge, beating the likes of Michele Costantini. Who else is seemingly out of contention right now? We saw Moreno Sorica involved, of course, on the opening lap. We saw some other bits of contact as well. So Xavi Ross, Lucas Prada, Eduardo Leo, and Moreno Sorica seemingly officially done for today's race. Only 3 splits, by the way, here on a Thursday night as we get to the end of the qualifying series for the INDYCAR Buttkicker iRacing Pro Series. You do start to see a bit of attrition in terms of the participation. Drivers who have had poor starts to the season no longer competing as regularly. And for those that have had some decent starts and, you know, have some points, feeling confident. Here comes Michele Costantini. He doesn't need the push to pass. Pablo Espez on those alternate tires has hit the crossover point and move is made. Yes, Costantini runs out wide. It's not going to change around the situation. The 13 through to 8th. is one of those tracks as well, let's be honest, where it's old school, and I feel like therefore everyone needs to try and visit this track at least once to try and enjoy the racing it produces. Racing like this, Caruso overcommits, locks the left front. There goes Espes. McEwen will try to make the move up the inside of the Australian. But no, the 21 slides back into line and now has got to try and set that move up all over again. This would be a great place, I think, to watch the cars as well, right? Down through the hurry downs, maybe through the carousel here. The amount of energy that these cars just load through on the left side tires. It must be an easy 120, 130 mile an hour as they're exiting the corner, punching the power and then running down towards the kink. Here's the look on board, by the way, inset on Caruso. He was on the push to pass, let off the power, that deactivates the push to pass, and then still decided to commit. Not necessarily sure that's the slightest move Caruso has ever made, but hey, you live and you learn. So let's talk gaps once again, by the way, because Elliot Veyron is now within 1.5 seconds of 4th position. And Jose Soria on the push to pass in 2nd. Well, he's lost track at this point of his teammate Ricardo Rico. The gap 2 seconds. No draft to be fed either now. And Rico well and truly flying right now. A driver that we know that in GT cars, for example, in the BMW Sim Cup, we've seen many a time the performance, the speed out of the Drago Racing driver. Not necessarily always seen him in these oak wheelers or even in downforce type cars. So they've clearly got this setup dialed in and figured out. It will be very interesting to see how it continues to progress. Second time of asking, Jordan Caruso seems to have made the move, by the way, on Pablo Espes. As your race leaders just continue to pound in the laps, they'll be starting to consider 8 seconds away from Caruso, only 4.6 away from Veyron, and knowing that the tyre strategies are going to switch back around, it could go in any direction. That is a great shot, by the way. How close to the inside curb were all 4 of those cars. It just shows as well the... While these cars don't have the performance of an F1 car by any means, no. They have their own fair share of downforce, and if you've seen, some of the crashes that we've had in the last year or so, I guess, across the NTT INDYCAR series, a little bit of damage to the front wing can do a lot negative impact. So Espes has lost 1 spot by the time we've got to the end of lap 10. He's got to survive at least 2 more laps. Both Luke McEwen and Florian Lebigra punch the button. They get a couple extra horsepower, 60 to 70. McEwen's through. Is Lebigra going to try and make the move as well? Doesn't need to. Pablo Espes has let him by. And so as coordinated as you'd like. Swap around on strategies. And now the primary shed runners trying to close up the margin. Michele Costantini in 8th position. Tamas Shimondo is going to slide his way past Jose Soria. And don't tell me, he's just blown past the quarter as well. Yes, he does. Soria takes 2nd back away. And suddenly your race leader, the grin from ear to ear now goes from planet to planet. I don't think Ricardo Rico has ever had such an easy 10 laps to the race. He might take umbrage to that fact that I've just called them easy 10 laps. I tell you what, those behind him, it's not going to be so easy, because here comes Veyron, Pinto, Ariel, Costantini. And again, primary compound tires expected to last the 14-lap stint. Those alternate compound tires, right, about to hit a cliff. So Shimon kind of covered the inside there for a moment. David Toth didn't take the bait. Up through Bill Mitchell Bend one more time. And maybe this time at the line, the pit window officially gets opened. Out of turn 14. Up the hill. And here comes Elliot Veyron on the button now. But David Toth's going to see the mirrors filled. He's still got draft of the car in front. Doesn't even matter though. Does Veyron try and get another? Yes, he does. Oh, that's like driving on a highway and just slowly slingshotting your way on forward. Double slingshot in effect as well. Veyron from 5th to 3rd down the main straight. And now as we watch the fight for 2nd, the fight for 9th starting to build as well. And more drivers on the push to pass. Veyron knows he's got to get past Soria sooner rather than later. It's only 3.4 seconds to your race leader. Behind, Caruso's on the button trying to close and defend from McEwen and Labigra behind. But fortunately, rearview mirrors not filled by the sight of a late dive bomb by any means for Caruso. Again, about 1.7 seconds the margin that this chasing group's got to try and bridge to 2nd and behind. And now Elliot Veyron between his teeth. And in the words of George Morgan, pedal to the metal. Let's go, 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 go. Same thing to be said for Thomas Shimon. Yeah, rather Diogo Pinto getting past Thomas Shimon. And that happened, I think, on the entry in towards the carousel. Could we see pit stops this time by? Seems as though you've got to think about it. Whoever's on the pit wall for these drivers will be doing the math, crunching the numbers, entering the data into the spreadsheets, and then ChatGPT and AI will spit something out, and that's hopefully right. And hopefully not as terrible as some of the nicknames it suggests. No, they're going to stay out for one more lap, but Ricardo Rico has come in. Very interesting. So Veyron, your new race leader, 12 laps complete here out of 26. And Rico, you can see how busy the pit lane is with cars that have crashed at the start of this race. No one else following him in behind. It's long pit lane, it's low pit limit. And he finally hits his box at the front of pit lane. It took him 30 seconds to reach there as well, by the way. But here we go. Helter Skelter kicks off once more. Ariel's up to 4th. Costantini's up to 6th. Make that, no, 5th position. Big send up the inside of turn 5, and the Italian gets it done. So it means Veyron, Pinto, Ariel, and Costantini currently sandwiching Jose Soria, with Thomas Shimon and David Poth dropping already behind them. I think Ricardo Rico's come out in clean air, by the way, which is exactly what he would have wanted. Watch all of this crazy fighting. Just outside the town of Plymouth, of course, here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Maybe they didn't think they had the gap to someone behind. Maybe that's something that Soria and the rest were thinking about. But behind Ricardo Rico is really only 1 or 2 drivers, Nico Wisbicki included. So a bit of an interesting call. Pablo Espes, by the way, he's dropped to 12th. Very much the case that I think the alternates have passed their sell-by date. And here, wow. Now that's a INDYCAR coming in at the halfway mark. And only 1. So Veyron goes into pit lane. Costantini stays out. Split call from Kawanda because Jordan Caruso and Michael Romanidis have come in as well. The race off and away from pit lane here. It's not going to be about an actual battle wheel to wheel. The question is the margin. How much time is going to split Ricardo Rico from Elliot Veyron? And how quickly can those alternate tires close up that margin as well in the battle for the net race lead? So as Costantini puts the pressure onto Gustavo Ariel, there goes that battle off and away from pit lane. Ricardo Rico already has re-inherited the lead. They're almost 3 wide behind as well as Jaden Munoz gets sandwiched by, Sotomuto by Michael Romanidis, and Jaden Munoz alongside a handful of others now leaving pit lane. It is a healthy advantage still for Ricardo Rico, 3 odd seconds. And now Diogo Pinto on the push to pass as well. So he'll be in next lap. He'll bring Ariel and Costantini in with him surely. Can't imagine them being able to go any longer, especially with Pinto taking full advantage of the push to pass. Cooper Webster as well in the Oracle Red Bull Sim Racing and Team Redline number 5. 6 seconds off of his counterpart Diogo Pinto up front. Jinx off to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so they mambo down to pit lane. And it seems as though Luke McEwen was getting a real amount of pressure from Florian Lebigra. That camera shot always gets me. You see the cars crest the hill. And the field's going to be in unison now. There is no one who will go longer than 14 laps, it seems. Remember, they had that full formation lap to do as well. Already the gap between Rico and Veyron down, by the way, to about 1.5 seconds. Veyron on the push to pass, coming down the main straightaway, going to try and close as soon as possible. Where does the overcut fare these drivers, though? There goes Pinto, Ariel, Costantini, already seeing Rico, Veyron fly their way on past. Now the merge, is there going to be any close battles potentially? Jose Soria behind Costantini, Tamas Shimon behind Florian Lebigra, but no wheel to wheel. Tires that have to come up to temperature as well, but alternates will fire up much quicker. Then you'll see the primary compounds get into their optimal window. Here we go, wheel to wheel and push to pass now being used freely. Damon gets the move made, but at some point he knows he's going to have to struggle. Lebigra is already alongside, out wide on the primary tires, and Luke McEwen forces his nose up the inside as well. And so 2 corners, 2 positions lost. Tamas Shimon down to 9th. Of course, this track most known for INDYCAR and whatnot. NASCAR's come here on occasion. First in 1956, then for a couple of years, 2021, 2022. But unfortunately, no longer racing here. The race date instead moved to the streets of Chicago. Maybe something that the residents of Chicago would wish gets moved back to Road America at some point. Something we may not complain about. We're on board, though, with Elliott Veyron. Up through Bill Mitchell. Ben, watch the car. Very neutral over a lot of those bumps. Same thing to be said out of the final corner. And that Coanda machine in the draft, and with 4 push-to-passes left to use in this race. Does have Diogo Pinto behind to keep an eye on. Gustavo Ariel's there in contention too. And what a turnaround for Team Redline as well. I mean, I think it's fair to say at this point, because they will self-admit it as well, they were absolutely nowhere on setup at the start of the season. But they've turned it around. Yes, maybe they've still got some learning to do on the ovals, but road courses, I mean, Diogo Pinto's not even using a push to pass. He made Elliott Veyron burn one because he was so close. And Team Redline, of course, adding the very quick Eduardo Leo to their team as part of this iRacing INDYCAR Buttkicker Pro Series challenge. And a driver that I very much maintain is going to be one of those drivers to watch in the future, especially in downforce cars. He's got a real knack for that, doesn't he? IMSA Esports last year, racing in the Cadillac with Altus. Couple of poles, I think, off the top of my head. Definitely in the first round of the championship, when I don't think anyone was necessarily expecting it. Then after that, being these INDYCAR performances that really made a lot of people stand up and take notice. He had a 4-gear special, 4-gear setup special at the first round of the VCO INDYCAR Challenge that I think a lot of people were trying to figure out how he had got the speed from the car. He's taken that knowledge over to Redline. What are we going to see? Speaking of Redline, Lebigra's just past Soria, but look at this exit from Diogo Pinto. It's put that doubt into the mind of Elliott Veyron that he needs to use the push to pass. And you did see on the left side of the screen, shout out to Josh Lee for throwing that up, push to pass usage is left. Ricardo Rico still got 7. He knew he's got to be defensive, but Veyron rips away the race lead down into turn 1. New fastest lap from Costantini. This could be a 5-way fight sooner rather than later. Big sideways slide there for Veyron down through turn 3. And now Pinto will try and follow through around the outside. Nope, he's back in line. He's back in line because that's what he wanted to do. One mindset and almost 2 moves in 1. Oh, Diogo Pinto, it's outrageous, it's audacious. And now as Gustavo Ariel continues piling on the misery for Ricardo Rico. Rico down to 4th. Costantini not going to be far behind as well. Deep under the brakes from the Portuguese driver. How does he get it wound down in time? And new race leader here at America's National Park of Speed, Diogo Pinto, Portuguese's finest, will try and break away up front. Gustavo Ariel is going to make it a red line 1 and 2. Lango. And now watch for Costantini behind. It could be 4 alternate runners up front sooner rather than later, but we're going to be 2 by 2 to Canada corner. Indeed, Costantini makes the move. Veyron runs wide, and here comes his teammate around the outside at Bill Mitchell Bend. Oh, this is fantastic stuff. The only problem is, it is 3:48 in the morning where I am, and I'm very, very scared. I'm waking up my neighbors in my hotel. But we won't worry about that. It's okay. Right, 9 to go. 9 long laps as well, let's not forget. This track, 4.048 miles, so what does that work out to? About 36 miles, which is how many kilometers? The proper units that I should have used initially? About 58 kilometers still left to go. The lap record here, by the way, set by Alex Zanardi, a 1:41.874. Now, I'm pretty sure they do things like bike racing and whatnot around Road America. I would be very curious what the lap record in a bike is. And when I mean bike, I don't mean motorcycle. I mean a human-powered bike. Now, I'm not saying I volunteered to try and find this out, because just climbing the hill up to turn 1 under the bridge seems a little bit outrageous, but it is what it is. Florian Lebigra next on to the case of Ricardo Rico. Pole sitter, but I think it's fair to say the strategy, not the right call. You live and you learn. Drago definitely had the speed in qualifying. And knowing that as well, you know, they probably felt that they had to go onto the alternates. They didn't want to risk being swarmed by those behind. And so maybe a calculated risk at the end of the day. Ooh, well, I think we're seeing a lot now. Luke McEwen's going to slide past as well. And in fact, I think there, for a moment, Lebigra was thinking about giving some draft to both machines, trying to keep them fighting down to turn 1. Yeah, and Rico actually holds on there through all of that. Yeah, got a little bit more of the draft, all things considered. As another 4-wheel drive drift onto the back straightaway as they get ready to plunge down to turn 5 for one more time. So we saw Pinto really wanted to get to the inside. Again, guess what? Luke McEwen gets to the inside. And up another position. Are we going to see a fight at the front? You know that the red line teammates probably don't want to fight. Both their drivers here inside of the top 12 in points. They only need to be in the top 33. But with the way that red line work together, as much as this is also, you know, a driver's championship, first you've got to get to the championship, and you know that red line will work together to get there. Random fact, by the way, that I'll throw out there. You know, load cell pedals. A lot of people talk about, oh, I have a 60 kilogram load cell pedal, but then they don't actually use much of the load cell, right? Because let's be honest, having to stamp down on 130, 140 kilos or whatever people say they have in their brakes gets quite tiring after a while, doesn't it? Well, apparently Gustavo Ariel actually has a brake pedal which is calibrated to where he needs about 100 and odd kilograms of force to make it work. I'm not saying I understand it, but, you know, he's clearly a strong guy. Costantini, big wiggle off of turn 3. Yeah, he's definitely still pushing, that's for sure. The other thing about Gustavo Ariel, by the way, is He's one of the drivers that is going to be competing in the Prodigy 3 Championship later this year, racing a Radical SR3 for Thibaut Courtois Racing. Very cool to have the Real Madrid goalkeeper, who does actually run a Formula 4 team in the F4 Spanish Championship, but going to see him take his team over to the US as well, hoping we see Thibaut out there for some of the races as well. But Gustavo went through physical testing, very similar to what INDYCAR, NASCAR, and IMSA drivers go through with the team at PitFit. So many great people there as well, supporting the journey of bringing sim racers to the real world. Gustavo Ariel's neck strength is apparently quite similar to that of like Formula 1 drivers. There were quite a few of the Racing Prodigy participants who compared similarly to IMSA drivers and things like that, where maybe there's a little less peak lateral load, but still plenty of long endurance loads that you've got to be comfortable dealing with. But yeah, there is nothing at the end of the day like the load forces that an F1 car can impart on your body. So yeah, Gustavo Ariel has such a strong neck that it might be difficult to put the Hans device on because it's so strong. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Hans device, of course, crucial. Now, Ricardo Rico on the charge once again, fighting with Florian Lebigra. In fact, has made a move on Florian Lebigra. And now looks to try and pass Luke McEwen as well. Now, this is interesting. Have we reached a crossover point late in this race? We didn't see the alternates fall off this quickly, I thought. But who knows? Even without, by the way, push to pass, you can see Rico not at the very top of the rev range. McEwen burned a push to pass in defense. And he's held on. Look up front. Look up front. Pinto, Ariel, Costantini, what's going on here? Through the hurry downs. Oh, there was a mistake somewhere. Pinto slowed down. He's cost himself some time. And he's very lucky he's had a teammate behind, surely. Red line 1 and 2, Kawanda 3 and 4. How many times have we seen this over the last 10 odd years in the world of sim racing? Maybe some new drivers, yes, but those same names, familiar liveries as well. 5 laps to go at the line. Maybe an uncharacteristic mistake from Diogo Pinto. And now has that kicked something off? Has it stirred the hornet's nest? How many push to passes they all have? Remember, Rico hadn't used too many at the start of the race, so he probably had a couple more in reserve relative to some of the other drivers, whereas you know, when we have the Costantini, for example, he's still at 8. I think we saw Ricardo Rico on point with, like I said, 8 as well. 4 for one of the Drago cars, all sorts of mixing and matching. Fight though for second. Costantini forced the long way around. And well, Elliot Veyron now has to defend from Luke Ewan in response to that. There's a lot of if and then sort of moves being thrown. If you do this, I'm going to do this. So this train goes from first all the way back to 8th. There goes the alternate tires, by the way. Primary's making a comeback. Ricardo Rico making a comeback, and followed by Jose Soria. So Drago now 5th and 6th once again. Red line, Kawanda, Drago, Apex. The teams right now in the top 10 with only Tamas Shimon as an independent privateer driver. Eight tenths the margin between your leaders up front. Does Diogo Pinto have enough of a margin now? Can he manage this race? Just ensure there is to be no drama. Remember, retirements from this race: Javi Ross, Lucas Prado, Eduardo Leo, and then Moreno Surica. Everyone else back out on track. Although in the case of David Oth, have lost him, by the way. I think he might have had a pit lane speeding penalty or something similar. He is now down 1 lap from your leaders and hoping just to salvage some sort of finish from this race. Back across the stripe. Weaving back and forth they go, but no push to pass is being used. I think that tells you a lot. Long way around for Drago, but Elliot Veyron holds on. I think if you are the Coanda and Redline drivers up front, you're deciding on your risk tolerance here today. Is the win that important that you're willing to tell your driver to go out there and just forget about the situation in championship points? Or are you just telling them, see those Drago cars behind them? Well, one of the Drago cars, because Jose Soria has lost the rear end down at turn 5. He will drop down outside of the 10 as well, even behind Cooper Webster. And now Pablo Espez as well. Self-inflicted mistake from a driver that's been very, very strong for the most part over the course of this qualifying series. More laps to go next time by. Here's a look down at the corner. So he tries to really arc it up. Ooh, okay, clips the inside curve way too much. Almost launches all 4 wheels into the air there, it seemed. But yeah, Lewis McLeod, suboptimal. All 4 tires are meant to sit on the ground for the most part, allegedly. That's what I've been told. The reason why I'm not a good driver is I'm not always the best at doing that. To Costantini's within, what, 4 tenths now? Not Diogo Pinto. Make that 2 tenths. Make that 1 tenth. Not going through it this time around. But the championship leader, I think, won't be opposed to making a point here today. But as much as I was maybe saying that Rico picked the wrong strategy earlier, he saved some push to passes, he saved the tires. What does he see in front of him unfold? He sees a move from Costantini, that's what happens. As Bobby Zalenski fastest lap, Costantini opens the door. Here comes Ricardo Rico, lunges up the inside of Pinto, makes his way back forward to second, and runs the Portuguese driver almost off the road. Those push-to-pass numbers, by the way, really important now. Michele Costantini leads, and with 6 push-to-passes to burn. So, basically, every straight from now to the checkered flag, expect to see the flashing light next to Costantini's name, except no, not yet. Florian the Beaker's already down to 0. Tamas Shimona's got just 1 left. I think everyone else is trying to be a little bit more careful. Shimon went very aggressive there to try and pass Luke McEwen for really getting the message that it wasn't on. Flick it left once more. That is a high commitment corner, Bill Mitchell-Ben, by the way. Daniel Munoz passes his teammate Soto Muto. What a recovery drive from the Texan. No qualifying time, and almost cracking the top 10. So still no push to pass up front, it would seem. Rico knows he's got to be patient. Not patient, though, with the grip. Oh, my days. Drago Racing lead once again. As Rico shows, they've got some speed in this IndyCar. Costantini, I think, using the push to pass more in defense than anything at this stage. And there are all sorts of action up and down through the field. Gustavo Ariel in a battle with the likes of Luke McEwen, maybe Tamas Shimon as well. Once again, at turn 5, doesn't seem like anyone overcooked the corner. Does Costantini want to be in second, though, maybe? Does he think he can get a draft, a slingshot, and make a move on the final lap? McEwen's left with 1, Veyron's left 1. Yeah, this first group up front, some have been a bit more careful with the push-ups than others. Wonder if Costantini's also a bit marginal on fuel. Definitely something else to keep in mind. So we'll have 4 miles left to go when we break the timing beam once again. This has been a relatively short race, all things considered. Some of these drivers competed in that penultimate round of the VCO IndyCar Challenge. 50 laps was that race. When they race here in the real world, 55 laps the race length. So while this surely was a stressful race, by no means does it compare to the physical intensity of these cars in the real world. So here we go. Costantini, 4 push-to-passes left. Rico, 1 push-to-pass left. Does Costantini need this win? The answer is no. It doesn't get more simple than that. Does he want this win? I think so. A driver that just missed on the VCO INDYCAR Challenge Championship. A driver that, for the most part, has just stayed out of trouble in this qualifying series to put himself up towards the front. This might only be his second top 5 this season, if you can believe it. Behind, Gustavo Ariel tries to get back past Luke McEwen, but no move made at turn 5 that sticks. And he's running out of time, running out of opportunities. And swapping around right now, losing some time for those in front, though. Costantini closes slightly under the brakes, but it's 6/10. Rico still got that push to pass in hand, and hits the button right as Costantini does as well. Top 5 drivers all letting loose with their final usages of the button. Behind, Coitet, Webster, Espes, Soria doing the same as well. And you know, the top 10, almost only 10 seconds cover them. Once you go back to the likes of Jaden Munoz as well in 13th position, it's been a relatively close race, all things considered. We knew strategy would be important. I don't think we knew quite how important. It's out of the final corner that Drago Racing remind everybody why they broke onto the scene last year. They won the Turn Racing Grand Prix Series and now winning at Road America in round 6 of the INDYCAR Buttkicker iRacing qualifying series. Take a bow, Ricardo Rico driving his way back into victory lane. Michele Costantini very well earned second place finish for him too. Diogo Pinto won't be disappointed by a third by any means. Many of these drivers will go into next week's race at Mid-Ohio knowing their spot in the top 33 is all but secure. Stay out of trouble. Don't get yourselves reported to the iRacing Steward book and you'll find yourself in a very good situation. Not quite sure if we're going to get the chance to chat with Ricardo Rico post-race, but we hope that maybe Michele Costantini, Diogo Pinto, and maybe our race winner can grace us with their presence, have a quick chat. It would be great to have a chat about how they feel right now on the cusp of making it to another Pro Series. Been a fun race. Again, we always know that Road America is going to be fun. But I've just got a message from Michele Costantini. Sorry, that's why I started laughing. He's going to come and join us for an interview as soon as he gets another shirt on. He's a little bit sweaty. Ricardo Rico also very sweaty, but he able to hold off the advances, the challenges of Costantini, with the points leader settling for second. Diogo Pinto, though, I think Team Redline really showing they've got this car figured out. 3rd, 4th, 8th, and 9th for 4 of their drivers. Luke McEwen finishes just behind Gustavo Ariel, able to hold off Tamas Shimon with Elliot Veyron down 4.2 seconds, yes, but once again showing he does have the speed, maybe not the long run speed just yet. Coitet Lebigra in front of their sister car, effectively Cooper Webster, so make it 5 of the top 10 in the Team Redline stable. 11th away of Pablo Espes. Jose Soria drops to 12th with the self-inflicted mistake, and you've got to give credit to Jaden Munoz with that recovery drive. No qualifying time for him. Bounces back to 13th. For Soto Muto, Michael Gianni, Jordan Caruso, and Michael Romanidis, maybe not the race that necessarily they would have wanted to see, but the race that they got. Behind them, Dan Amor, first time we've seen him in the top split, made a decent account of himself as well in the Apex Racing Academy machine, finishes in front of Nathan Moore and Luis Nunez in 20th position. Rolling through the field, and in Roseboro, Manuel Kubo Torres, then Peter Berryman. Again, just not having that luck, I think, today for Berryman. We know the speed's there, but in front of Burrell, Scully, and Nico Rosbicki. 1 lap down for Zelensky and Kraus, 2 laps down for David Toth before you get to the used car lot. The likes of Xavi Ross, who of course lost the rear wing on his number 28 Stealth Black Xavi Ross engineering entry. And of course the other 3 that found themselves involved in strife. It was a misfortune for Lucas Prada, Eduardo Leo, and Moreno Surica. The say that we were going to get a chance to chat with some of the drivers. Michele Costantini has thrown a shirt on, maybe wipes the forehead, and now joins us in the broadcast booth. Michele, a fantastic second place finish for you. Talk me through, though, the strategy call, because Drago Racing going aggressive on the alternates at the start of the race and Rico fighting back. Was that something that you thought would happen?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, the race was so much fun, especially at the end. But yeah, I think in hindsight, I probably should have, I don't know, started fighting the red line guys a little bit later, because that allowed Ricardo to catch back up in a little bit of an easier way and a little bit earlier. But other than that, I think we played it perfectly considering our strategy. We knew that having the alternate tires at the end would probably end up being a disadvantage if we were in a fight. But considering our qualifying and where we started, I think that was the right call for our race, and I think we played out pretty good for me.
And tell me how you feel right now, Michele. We've got one more round of this championship to come at Mid-Ohio, but, you know, points leader coming into this round, probably the points leader leaving this round, if we're being honest as well, right? You must be now starting to shift your attention, your mindset, and your focus to September the 19th and the fact that your sleep schedule is going to be ruined for the rest of the year as well.
It's it's been ruined for this whole month already doing these races at this time, to be honest. But you know, we've been waiting for this championship for a long time, so it's worth it, to be honest. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to September. In terms of championship, I'm pretty sure that yeah, my drop round at the moment is like a 260 points at Indy, so not quite sure how that's gonna play out. Depends on what the SOF for Mid-Ohio will be, to be honest. But yeah, I'll definitely race anyway at Mid-Ohio, no matter what. It's just a good practice for the World Championship, as you said, and yeah, really looking forward to it.
All I'll say is, Michele, it's going on 4:10 in the morning for me right now, so I feel your pain. Best of luck for the rest of this year, hoping we see plenty more of you up front.
Thank you very much. See you guys.
Always great to chat with the flying Italian Michele Costantini. Let's go check in, though, with our race winner, Riccardo Rico, who joins us now. Riccardo, I mean, congratulations first. What a drive from you. Strategy worked out perfectly. Car looks very well balanced as well. Talk to us about that race.
Car was very good, but I don't know about the strategy, because the strategy was not bad, but we, as the only group doing that, that put us on a risky position, as you can see, right? Later. But yeah, I have to be happy, and I was super sweaty and nervous, mate. These fights are crazy.
It looks like a lot of fun. I've got to ask Riccardo, you know, Drago Racing, you've got Jose Sori, who has some more experience in this car, but I think for you, David Toth, and for Nico Wisbicki, right, it's somewhat of a new car for you. How have you found the process of adapting to the car, learning, you know, in-car tools and all of that? Is it a car you're having fun with?
Of course, because it's completely new car for me, right? Not only in terms of the car by itself, but because it's I've driven my whole life GTs, so this is very different, and I'm enjoying the learning of the car, of the setup, of how to drive, basically, because yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's very different, but that makes it a challenge.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Riccardo, what a great drive from you. Congratulations. Not quite sure how the points look, but one more round of the championship at Mid-Ohio. Best luck next week as you try to make your way to the INDYCAR Pro Series.
Thanks, Adriano. Have a good night.
Always great to catch up with a race winner, Riccardo Rico. A very well-earned race win for him. One final check-in with Diogo Pinto in that Team Redline car. Diogo, it's been a fun day, I think, for Team Redline as a whole. Kevin Siggy, of course, winning the Esports World Cup Drivers' Championship. How did you feel about this race, though? Seemed as though setup battles and strategy battles quite interesting. And ultimately, Redline looking very good. 5 cars in the top 10.
Yeah, it was a really fun race. We were not as good these rounds, so I think for this track specifically we have to improve a little bit. I don't think we're off pace too much, just our straight line speed is really bad, so when it comes to fighting it's extremely difficult, but it was a really fun race. Yeah, some guys got good points. Unfortunately, Leo finished at the back with an incident, but we'll make sure to support him from the last race and make sure he gets in the series. That's the whole point of these races.
Absolutely, and that's why sometimes I think we see you and Gustavo running first and second, and we say, you're not going to fight now because we know exactly what is on the line. Talk to me, though, about you called out your car maybe being a bit slower in a straight line, and that's something that we did note, right, Diogo, at the VCO IndyCar Challenge as well. You guys were maybe slightly slower in a straight line, but you made all that speed up in the corner. Is this something where, you know, coming especially from the likes of the Porsche Cup car, where maybe there's less to do in terms of different setup approaches, have you found this IndyCar really benefits those that go and experiment a little bit more and find these new ways of making the speed?
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's just we have to do laps, try stuff, do stints. Around here, it was a really interesting dynamic because all the cars were much faster than us. So it's like I said, because we're so slow on the straights, we have to use our push to pass a lot more often, which means at the end, I didn't have enough push to pass to fight Michele or Ricardo. So it was a bit difficult, but yeah, maybe if in these conditions, or maybe they improved their low down first approach a little bit. They were definitely more competitive around here than in the VCO series. So let's see. I think it was a fun race, and that's what we're here for. I think this championship has really good potential, and I'm happy to participate.
Sounds good. And before I let you go, I've got to ask: did you hit your head on your steering wheel? Did that help you today?
No, I don't hit my head on the steering wheel, no.
Okay, so maybe something to learn from Kevin Siggy, but Diogo, what a great day for Redline as a whole. Can't wait to see next week at Mid-Ohio how things end. We'll see you there.
Yeah, thank you and good work.
Always great to catch up with a world champion in Diogo Pinto. And as mentioned, Mid-Ohio sports car course to come. Relatively short race once again, but this is one of those tracks where the danger is going to be present from the very start. Remember, in the real-world NTT IndyCar series, the race actually starts on the back straightaway. We're going to start on the pit straight. Through the keyhole, so much challenge down at turn 2 for the first time of asking. August 29th, join us at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific for the final round of the qualifying series. And just a reminder as well, after that, all roads lead to September the 19th and the first round of the brand new INDYCAR Buttkicker iRacing Pro Series. You heard it from Michele. It's something he's been waiting for a while. And our points leader in this INDYCAR Buttkicker iRacing qualifying series is excited to ruin his sleep schedule for what lies ahead. Time for us, though, to say goodbye once again. I'll be back home and at a more reasonable time of the hour when hopefully I'll be able to shout a little bit more. But a big shout out to Dustin Ollis and to Josh Lee today for covering production duties for the last couple of weeks. Big shout out to our team at RaceSpot and a thank you to you for joining us as well. Congratulations to Ricardo Rico, winner here at America's National Park of Speed, and just one more week to find out the 33 that will compete in the INDYCAR Buttkicker iRacing Pro Series.